about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, guys. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So it's interesting how people panic about tax day. I mean, we've had to pay our taxes all year long. April 15th is tax day. I remember during the COVID pandemic and lockdowns, they extended the days and, they played around with the rules. But this shouldn't be a shock to anybody. I know a lot of us don't like to pay taxes, but we need to. The whole purpose of taxes is so that if we can't ourselves manage the roads, manage security, law enforcement, manage, that money goes to somebody else doing it. And so this way you're able to still be your farmer. You're able to still be your dairy herder. All right. You're able to still be the doctor. You're able to still do what you do because everybody's putting money into the pot to get everything else done. It's a brilliant concept. In fact, in America, I believe income tax originally started around the Civil War when they needed people to chip in, but then it didn't become ratified or an actual law. It was, I think in 1909 was when it was first, proposed as an amendment, and it was ratified, I think, 1913. So we have been collecting income tax now for relatively, not our whole history as America, but since the last century. And so tax day is something that allows, as I said, us to be freed up where we don't have to be responsible or do everything we're supposed to do on a voluntary basis. There's money to hire somebody so that stuff gets done. Now, I'm not a big fan because I live in Southern Nevada and I have been here off and on since the 80s. And all there is construction all the time. And I'm not talking about new roads in the outskirts. The same flip. All I see is the orange cone. In fact, many Nevadans think that the orange cone is our state flower, our state tree, our state symbol, because all we see are orange cones. And so one thing that kind of irks us is, are we, really getting what we paid for? Are our tax dollars really going to what they should? Look at what happened with school board meetings over the past few years, where parents are like, wait a second, we're paying all this money for our kids to get a good education, and they're not proficient in math. They're not proficient in reading. They're giving tests online. Parents are helping them with their homework. What's going on here? And so, first and foremost, today being tax day should not be anything anxiety producing. I know this is not what financial analysts recommend, but this is what works for me. I overpay. I have more money taken out. I know everybody says don't pay the barest minimum and then pay what you're owed because that money would do better in a high interest account. For me, I'm like, I don't want to be under. 1 year we were under. We paid, we thought our accountant was doing the right thing. And then we found out that we still owed, when tax came, we had to submit like about $20,000. I'm like, how did that happen? We've been paying taxes the whole time. Well, it wasn't enough. So I like to overpay and then hopefully get a refund. Right? This way, I don't ever have to worry about, that's just me. I get to sleep better at night. So I guess tax day ends if you do not file your taxes today like you're supposed to. You could request a 6-month extension. If you're filing an electronic return, you must submit your tax forms by midnight tonight. However, the site recommends that you click submit before 11:59 p.m., as it may take a few minutes for your return to be successfully transmitted to the IRS. If you're mailing in your tax return this year, you're going to want to make sure it's postmarked by April 15th to avoid any penalties. Now, I believe this 11:59 p.m. is Eastern time. So for those of us who live West Coast, you need to get this stuff done by 59. Now, some people say, no, it has to be your time. You know what? Don't be cutting it that close. Why are you cutting it that close? People always ask, do you use help? Do you hire somebody to do your taxes? I'm very fond of accountants and CPAs, but I am not fond of the fact that we need them, that we have a system that is so flippin' confusing. It should be simple. Like, remember Herman Cain, may he rest in peace, said the 999, like a flat tax, 9% for everybody. Now, I really like that idea of whatever you make, you pay a percentage. So obviously, if you make more, you're paying more. But it's an even percentage, so everybody's treated evenly. Of course, people below the poverty level or at the poverty level don't pay. But we really need to simplify it. Instead, there's all these little loopholes and, well, if you used it for this, you get to deduct it. If you did this, I saw a meme where somebody was talking to his accountant and he said the dog does their business downstairs in the basement. And the accountant says, well, then you could write off the basement as a business deduction. It makes fun of the fact that we just have all these loopholes. And I understand a lot of people love the loopholes. They donate to charity, they buy things for the business, but look at what's happened with the taxes and tips. I don't want to accuse the average person making tips not filing 100% correctly, but everywhere I go, places say we prefer cash for tips. We prefer cash. Well, why? Well, one, because credit card charges you more. So you have to pay the credit card company when somebody uses a credit card at your place of work. But two, because then it's not as traceable. And so, the no tax on tips, I think, makes sense because people aren't paying the taxes anyway. And it gives those who are, really struggling, a little step up. Those who are making six figures a year on tips, that's a whole nother story. But today is tax day. I'm sure you're going to be able to get free coffee somewhere. People make this a holiday, but don't be panicked about it. You knew this was coming. We need to pay taxes. I just think we need a much simpler system. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hotshot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So President Trump is one of the oldest presidents ever to have been reelected even, holding office now. And I believe he's turning 79 this June. And he had his first physical of his second term. And it's excellent. His physical is excellent. And in fact, they did include the cognitive mini mental status exam and cognitive testing, which is something we really needed Biden's doctor to do. So I just want to quickly review some of the things because some of you had questions about some of his results. And so I just want to quickly review them. But I got to tell you, I am really, really impressed. I wish some of my 40-year-old patients would have numbers that look this good whenever they call into the company I work for and I get to see their labs. So his physician is Navy Captain Sean Barbabella. And he did a very, very comprehensive exam. According to his letter, this was being distributed by the White House. On April 11th, 2025, President Donald J. Trump underwent his annual physical examination at Walter Reed. I performed and supervised the comprehensive exam, which included diagnostic and lab testing, as well as consultations with 14 specialty consultants, all in accordance with the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force recommendations, and the president has consented to release the physical exam findings to the public. That's huge because of HIPAA. A lot of reporters held off reporting this until we knew that there was some HIPAA protection. So I apologize if I didn't release this the second we got it because, again, I want to make sure it was allowed. He's 78 years old, 10 months. Why? Because he turned 79 in June. He's 75 inches tall, 224 pounds. His resting heart rate at 62 beats per minute. That's fantastic. Heart rates range anywhere from 60 to 90. The higher the heart rate, the more we're concerned that you're having issues with your cardiac output. It's a compensatory mechanism. So the fact that you have a lower resting heart rate, that shows that you're physically fit. Donald Trump doesn't look the most physically fit, but a heart rate of 62 for his age is fantastic. Blood pressure 128 over 74. We do not want you above 120 over 80. 128 over 74. The systolic is a little high, but overall not bad. His pulse oximetry 99% on room air means the oxygen in his blood is strong. Once you start to sneak below 96, we're going, something's up. 94, we're getting worried. 92, you're going to the hospital. So a 99% on room air is fantastic. His temperature was 98.6. They did a dilated eye exam, looked at his eye pressure, very thorough eye exam. They did a head and neck exam. They did note the right ear scarring from a gunshot wound. His hearing was normal, which, by the way, that is impressive, right? Because when we saw him get shot in the ear, you would think there would be some damage from the sound and from the impact sound or something, but apparently his hearing is still normal. So it didn't affect his hearing ability. And thank God he lived from that. In terms of his neck, his thyroid and lymph nodes were normal. He had a ultrasound of the carotid arteries in July 2024. It showed normal results. A repeat study was not indicated. Now, this carotid artery ultrasound is a predictor for stroke. Sometimes even a predictor for dementia if your carotids are clogged. If your carotids are clogged, you're not getting good blood flow to the brain. The fact that his was clear and another test was not indicated is a fantastic sign. For his lungs, they did a CAT scan, showed no chest abnormalities. Even though he's not a smoker, that was beyond what a chest x-ray could show. A normal CAT scan is a good sign he doesn't have cancer. His cardiac exam looked great, normal heart sounds. His EKG, his echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound, revealed no abnormalities. Heart function normal ejection fraction, and blood flows to his extremities were unimpaired, meaning they probably ultrasounded the main conduits and arteries to evaluate the flow. Again, he's almost 79 years old. It's pretty good. No genitourinary abnormalities noted. They didn't go into a lot of detail about his prostate or testicles. They just said no abnormalities noted. Extremities, musculoskeletals. He has full range of motion, normal blood flow. Neurologically, He had a very thorough neurological exam. They looked at his gait, his reflexes, his balance, his cranial nerves, and his mental status. They did the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MOCA, and it was normal, 30 out of 30. They also had him do the patient health questionnaire, the generalized anxiety disorder questionnaire. They want to screen for depression and anxiety, respectively, all within the normal range. He does have some minor skin lesions, actinic keratosis, which could be precancerous, as many men his age may have. They were not too concerned with them. They said he had a few benign lesions and no new growths. On his lab results, we want your cholesterol, your total cholesterol under 200. His cholesterol was 140. That's fantastic. His triglycerides, 56. We want you under 150. His HDL is good cholesterol. This is fantastic. 77 micrograms per deciliter. We want your HDL, your good cholesterol, over 40. Having a level of 77, absolutely fantastic. LDL, 51. His white cell count was good. No sign of infection. Hemoglobin and hematocrit, no sign of anemia. Platelets, clotting factors look good. His sugar looks good. 89.7, no sign of diabetes. Glycohemoglobin was 5.2. Again, no sign of diabetes. His kidney function was good. His liver function was good. His B12 level was good. His PSA was 0.1. Remember I told you if your PSA is under 1, that's a really, really good sign that you're not going to get prostate cancer anytime soon. His thyroid level was normal as well. Urinalysis was normal. He does have rosacea, which is a skin condition that people can get. We see it react a lot more in the spring and summer. He did have a history of diverticulosis, which are pockets in the colon. He had a benign colonic polyp that had been found on a previous colonoscopy. I'm not sure when his next colonoscopy is going to be. His appendix was removed at the age of 11, and he has had bilateral cataract surgery. A lifelong abstinence from tobacco and alcohol, and his current medications are rosuvastatin, Crestor, one of my favorite cholesterol medications, ezetimibe or ezetimibe Zetia, which we spoke about yesterday, how the combination is fantastic. Aspirin, they say it's for cardiac prevention. If somebody is at risk for GI bleed, they would not give it. But if he's not at risk, but they are concerned about his cholesterol, they may still give his aspirin. One of my listeners asked about that. So they have him on aspirin as well. And then mometasone cream is a steroid cream that you could use for some of the skin conditions. All his vaccinations are up to date. His travel-related immunizations are up to date. So this was the summary that Navy Captain Sean Barbabella said. President Trump remains in excellent health, exhibiting robust cardiac, pulmonary, neurological, and general physical function. His active lifestyle continues to contribute significantly to his well-being. President Trump's days include participation in multiple meetings, public appearances, press availability, and frequent victories in golf events. President Trump exhibits excellent cognitive and physical health and is fully fit to execute the duties of the commander-in-chief and head of state. Now, already the media is jumping on the golf victories comment of that, saying, well, that's not a professional doctor note. That's not what they put. They don't comment on somebody winning. That must have been added by the White House. That must have been a doctor in his summary can be less robotic and can put his subjective. So you have subjective and objective. Subjective is what the patient tells you or what you subjectively feel. Objective is what is the objective data. So with 2 pages of objective data, in the end, the doctor can surmise and say, this is what I think. And being that you know, what he was trying to make a statement that this is somebody who's not just playing golf and everybody's just kind of, letting him win and dancing around him and worried he's going to fall. They, for somebody to be successful at golf, right? Like McIlroy, Tiger Woods, etc. You have to have balance. You have to have stamina. You have to have strength. You have to have good cardiac function. So I think he was adding that to emphasize the robustness that Trump had. Trump doesn't just sit home and watch Fox News or play video games. He's out there on the golf course. And so it's another metric and a testament to his good health. And again, I mean, he's almost 80 years old. As I said, I've wished 40-year-olds could have the numbers that they have. And people said, oh, those can't be true. I've never seen numbers that good. Actually, they can be. I've seen people's HDL rise really nicely if they're on Crestor and Zetia, and so I believe it. So it's fantastic. And yes, there was a mental status exam done on that, which I think all presidents should have. So hopefully this sets the course for future physicals. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I don't remember a lot of my grandparents' conversations, especially since one set of my grandparents always spoke in German or Hebrew, or so I really didn't always understand them. But the English-speaking grandparents, I remember hearing when I was really, really little that the younger generation is messed up. Now, the younger generation was around in the 1980s, and how they are growing up in a different world than they are, and they're going to be messed up. And then we fast forward to the current generations of the Generation Alpha. Now we have Generation Beta, the Gen Zs and Millennials. And you hear Gen X and Baby Boomers say, yep, the younger generation is getting messed up. And older generations always feel that the younger generations are not being brought up properly because they weren't brought up the way they were brought up. So the old thinking of you have to go to school, you have to learn an instrument, you toil the farm, you help support the family, you don't have premarital sex. Those things got challenged as newer generations came out. And so one big talking point that older generations are concerned about with young kids are the smartphones, where we have a generation of young kids that now rely on tech and on a smartphone, that if they lose, they go through immediate withdrawal. They're almost addicted to their phones. It's preventing them from learning in school. It's preventing them from sleeping well. It's putting them at risk of photography, pornography, predators. And so many people feel that the younger generation is going to be marred for life because of their smartphones. Well, there's a study that is challenging that. And so lead researcher from the University of South Florida wanted to test what they read as it pertained to the anxious generation. And this is a social psychologist book, Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Anxious Generation, which argues that phone-based childhoods are causing a teen mental health epidemic. So they said we expected to go into the study and find that exclusively negative things were associated with smartphone ownership, but that is not what they found. Dr. Martin said in a survey of 1,500 Floridians, ages 11 through 13, kids with smartphones reported better mental health than those without smartphones on a number of different measures, including higher self-esteem, being less likely to feel depressed, and the finding held across the socioeconomic differences of the children being surveyed. So the survey challenges the belief that kids with cell phones are more likely to be isolated, introverts, will never leave their bedroom. And they said that kids with smartphones were overall more likely to spend time with friends in person. Now, they say the middle schoolers were using phones to spend time online with their friends, do school-related tasks, playing learning games, and coordinate hangouts with friends. And so kids are using those phones to thrive with their social lives. And so, this is one of the very few studies looking at benefits of smartphone use. So when I look at this back and forth, I'm of the thinking that kids should not, if we just look at an ophthalmologic standpoint, should not be staring at a screen for a long period of time. I don't mind you checking your phone, you checking your messages, you looking something up. But kids should be playing outside. They should be learning how to climb fences, climb trees, catch a ball, ride a bike, skateboard. Okay, they need to learn how to be active. And if instead they're sitting at home playing around with their phone, they're losing that time to interact. When you interact in person, you're moving, you're engaging. Interacting on a telephone can put you at risk of you being duped or gaslighted or catfished by somebody else. So I'm of the thinking that the amount of smartphone use is bad. I don't mind a child having a smartphone. But how many hours are they on it? What are they using it for? I think it's very dangerous that a child may not know their parent's phone number. When you ask somebody, okay, what's your family member's number? They have to hit a button. Okay, what if you don't have that button to hit? Now you're with the authorities and the authorities are trying to reach out to find your parents. I don't know their phone number. It's either speed dial or I hit a button. And so my issues with smartphones is that we're not utilizing the brain that we need to. We're relying everything on our phone, our calendar, when I ask a girl when we're taking a history, when was your last period? 99% of them don't remember. And they go, let me look it up. I have an app. How do you not know it's not that hard. There's only 30 days to the month. No wonder people's memories are falling apart. You don't even remember that your last period was on the 7th? That's what really blows my mind. When I ask, when was your last period? And they take a good 5 minutes to look it up. And it actually was 3 days prior is when it ended. And I'm like, you needed to look that up? You don't remember that over the weekend you were? So I'm nervous about that. Yeah, how do you not have your own database? We're letting something superficial and artificial be our brain database. You should be improving your own database. Your brain goes with you wherever you go. We're so worried about taking pictures of things that we don't actually stop and enjoy what we're looking at. So it doesn't go into the memory. We're so busy operating our phones. Well, what if you lose that picture? I can't tell you how many times I look at pictures and I go, I don't remember seeing that. But I caught it on picture, and I'm glad I did because it cements the memory. But I really would have loved to have that, also in my brain. So when are smartphones good? Well, I got my kids' phones earlier than I expected to. Because at first I'm like, there's no way. I'm not getting my kids' phones. Hell no. But then I worried that they wouldn't be able to reach me. They're at a birthday party or they're on a field trip and something goes wrong and they need to reach me. And boy, did I change my tune and I made sure they both had access to phones. There is no way I wanted my kids to not be able to have that access. And so that's a big plus. If they lose their phone, they're in trouble. But also, I like the tracing feature. So like the Find My iPhone, so that you know where your kids are and they know where you are. so that they could, that's, or where your last location was. I think that's very helpful for safety. So they don't forget things, so they don't get lost. There's a lot of apps that are fantastic on these things. Like I love the maps where people can find where to go and how to avoid traffic. I think that's fantastic. But in terms of socialization, what I've learned as the generations progress is, and maybe they're not actually progressing, but as we go through time, is if I was around in the 50s, I don't know how much better I would do socially. I mean, things are different, in the 1950s and the 1980s than they are now. And so if now kids communicate by phone, and here you are saying, but I can't communicate by phone, I can't, then now you're an outlier. So if society is about the the hip hop music and about the smartphones and about the tech and about the chat GTP, you then are intertwined with that current society, and you're able to socialize more. You're able to be a part of society more because you are connected that way. So if you tell a kid no smartphone and you're going to feel better and have better mental health, they might not if all their friends can't reach them. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
We depend on our drinking water supply daily, but where does that water come from? Your water provider encourages you to get to know your local water source so together we can protect and preserve it. The investments we make as a community to protect our water source now ensure we have a sustainable drinking water supply for the future. Visit drinktap.org to learn more. This message is brought to you by the American Water Works Association and your local water provider.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. Totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So every now and then I talk about, some of the personal issues in my life, not to bore you guys, but because sometimes I think what I might be going through may be relevant for some of you. And so one thing that we are kind of going through in our family is one of my family members is losing their eyesight. And although they still want to work and we've stopped driving, they're no longer driving, and they are starting to, I guess, realize that their later chapter in their book is going to be different, not as fun, and possibly leading to the inevitable. And so it's a very depressing time for this family member. And it's my mom. I love my mom, but my mom is in her 80s, and she had dry macular degeneration, which we've spoken about on the show before. That has now become wet macular degeneration, which causes a much more severe loss of eyesight. She could still technically see, but not safe to drive. And so one thing she always wanted to do was see the Holy Land. And, it's expensive. Israel, not always the safest, to go to, especially with everything going on. We still don't have the hostages home. We still, aren't sure if, ceasefires will continue to not hold up. But I'm going to make this happen for her. So I'm going to take her to Israel. Now, selfish me, right? I don't do well with my mom. I love my mom, but getting through 8 days, let alone 8 minutes, let alone 8 days, is going to be kind of rough. And so when I'm talking to my mom about organizing the trip and everything, she immediately goes into, we're going to want this, we're going to want to do this, and I'm like, this isn't America. It's different. It's a different country. Okay, when you go to a different country, you can't be asking for extra napkins and ranch dressing and other things like that and extra pillows, And she's like, well, of course you can. It's a hotel. I go, it's a different country. She's never been out of the country before. And she has a passport and all that. But I'm like, it's different. So, we're going to have different outlets. We're going to get different money. Even though we're going to probably use the credit card, so we're going to be doing it's different. And, my mom is one of the smartest ladies on this planet, but I was shocked at the naivety that, where I had to kind of remind her it's a different country and things are done differently. And I think a lot of people forget that. They really do. And, especially if you haven't traveled out of the country. I don't know if you've been following this Denmark story where these kids went to, not kids, these, I think they're college students. 2 American college students got arrested in Denmark. And it started with something really, really dumb. Owen Ray, a 19-year-old, studies at the Miami University in Ohio. He and his friend were in Denmark. I believe they were going to take an Uber. The Uber had the wrong destination, so they decided to cancel the trip. When they asked him to change the destination, the Uber driver kept following them as they got out of the car, turned into a physical altercation. They get arrested. Then their passports have been seized. And this is in Denmark. Denmark. Okay, we're not talking China. We're not talking Russia. Denmark is a friendly. Now, Owen Ray's parents say we remain deeply concerned that Danish authorities have confiscated his passport and will not allow him to return to the United States, something we understand is unusual in Danish court proceedings. So basically, they were on spring break. March 31st, they called an Uber. The driver arrived, and Ray realized he had entered the wrong destination address and reportedly asked to be taken to a different hotel. Now, there is Uber in these other countries, but I told my mom we're not taking Uber in another country, okay, because I don't know if the same rules apply. I don't, as much as I like Uber and I've used Uber, no, we're going to have a little bit more independence as it pertains to where we go and how we go. Well, apparently, Ray inputted, I guess, the wrong hotel. And, when you are in a foreign country, it's very easy to mix up the hotels. And so he asked the driver, can you go to the right hotel, correct hotel? The driver declined. So Ray and his friend decided to leave the vehicle and canceled the ride. Now, this triggered a cancellation fee. Now, the pair began to walk, and I think they had to pay the cancellation fee. So the pair began walking towards the hotel, and they called a replacement Uber. But the original driver had been following Ray and his friend. And this is being reported by Fox News. And so they're getting followed and then threatened to call the police, claiming he had not received payment. This is according to what a family spokesperson told Fox News Digital. So Ray reportedly told the driver, that's fine, call the police. we didn't do anything wrong. And the driver got paid because there was a cancellation fee they had to pay. So Ray told Good Morning America, we said we've done nothing wrong. We've done nothing wrong. Then he started an altercation, and apparently it escalated into a physical altercation. The pair were able to escape, return to their hotel. The next morning, Ray and his friend arrived at Copenhagen Airport to leave the country. I think their trip was done, but they got arrested by Danish authorities. The two friends were charged with simple assault and had to be in court later that day. And then they've been detained. Now, Ray and his friend were sentenced to an initial 10-day pretrial detention as the investigation remained ongoing, and their sentences were subsequently extended until April 24th. Now, 2 weeks after all of this, they were released. So they spent 2 weeks in a Danish prison, but had been ordered to check in with authorities daily, and having their passports confiscated, they still couldn't leave the country. So a Copenhagen police spokesperson told Fox News Digital they are still charged in the case. It is standard procedure to confiscate the passports until the court hearing. So the court hearing is not for another 9 days. Now, the parents are asking Danish officials to let him come home. And the incident was captured on an Uber driver's dash cam. I believe that is evidence. But it starts to, remind us, look, I love the idea of travel. I never got to travel when I was younger because we never had money. And, it took a lot out of us for us to kind of, figure out how to, put our points together, save some money, and get ourselves to go. And, once I was able to see Europe, I'm like, oh, wow. I love Europe. It's amazing. I love Italy, France. It's, if you've never been, there's ways to do it that are very reasonable. It's not just for the celebrities. But when you do go out of the country, you have to realize rules are different. Whether it's, how you pay for things or tip or talk to people. Uber, Uber in Chicago or Uber in New York may not be the same as Uber in Denmark. And so I think a lot of people, when they go out of this country, they just kind of forget, especially if you've never been. You get so used to the way things are done in America. And it's frightening. And a lot of people like to go out of the country. I don't blame you to go. You might as well see the world. You know how exciting that is? But look at that pre-med student in the Dominican Republic gone missing or presumed dead like she drowned. Although I don't think they still found the body. So I believe she's missing. But, it's a different world in other countries. I mean, we have crime, we have abductions, we have trafficking, we have bad things that happen in America. But we do have a predictable legal pattern. We know what our rights are. And so when you see that these young kids on spring break are screwed over just because there was a problem with the Uber driver, that, it starts to make you think, should you not use Uber when you're overseas? Should you maybe not go overseas if you don't have your own transportation? Should you, you got to really research where you're going. But I'm shocked that this happened in Denmark. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.